Welcome to the Data Analytics and AI for Process Industry course. These days, we'll see analytics everywhere. For example, if you buy an item on Amazon, the next time you went there, you will see they are going to recommend many products that are related to the products you bought earlier. This is a very common thing we are seeing today. So analytics are everywhere we are seeing. Especially if you're looking at the petroleum industry, we have three main streams: upstream, midstream, and downstream activities. Um, in all these, also analytics can be applied, and even if you can find a small marginal improvement in the current process, that contributes a lot for the industry. So all these three streams, a lot of IoT applications are installed there. There are many sensors, actuators that are controlled remotely and also monitored remotely. So these sensors collect a lot of data on a day-to-day basis. So if you can use use the data generated and do analytics on top of it, and can identify any process improvements, that will benefit the organization. Coming to the syllabus, we are going to look at start with languages of data science. To do analytics on databases, SQL is the language. So using SQL, we can talk to the database, and we can also access, modify, and also we can do some kind of a basic primitive analytics on the database, data in the database. Um, Python also has many libraries to do the data analytics. The other languages people frequently use is the R language. So there is a language called R that is also mostly targeted towards the data science. But all the features will be very similar. So if you learn one properly, the others you can learn. They are very similar features, so it's not that difficult to migrate from one data science language to other language. Okay, the other part we are going to touch is data warehousing and OLAP. This is related to, let's say, many organizations, they collect a lot of data that is related to their customers and also related to their sales. And this data was there they'll maintain this data for a long time. So they have a history of last 5 years transactions or 10 years transactions. So using the historical data, so if we can do some kind of a data mining and come up with uh, some kind of a improvements to the current process, that will be very helpful. So this is looking at the previous transactions for a that were collected over the period of 5 to 10 years, and we want to analyze the data and somehow come up with recommendations how to improve the current process. When large number of samples were collected, we want to find out what is the main or the central tendency of the data. That is typically we call that as mean, and how the other samples are differing or varying from the mean. So that is your variance. So we are going to look at some basic statistics on how to understand a sample data given. And if the population is, if the sample set is too big, then it's very hard to find the mean and other statistics. So instead of calculating the mean for the whole population, we can take a random sample of a smaller size, and using those random samples, we can also somehow estimate the true mean of your the mean of your whole population. So in the central limit theorem, we are going to see how to do that part. Now, in the linear regression, let's say we conducted an experiment and we measured two variables. Now we want to identify the relation between those two variables. So this linear regression case, we try to fit a best possible line that can model the relationship between those two variables. So with that, for a given one variable, we can also tell what will be the second variable value. So we try to whatever data we collected, we try to model with a linear equation. And classification is in simple case. Let's say in the COVID-19, a lot of data is collected. Let's say on the age of a person and what is his health profile, his BP and sugar levels and other medical history. And also they're saying they're also recording whether the person got infected or he is positive or negative. So this data is collected for a collected by all the countries. Now using this data, we can we create a model by using all the facts that they recorded and somehow come up with a model. That model will help you to find out a given profile is a person with a given profile, whether he will get infected or not. So this is what is called a classification. So using the known facts, we'll create a model, and using the model, we want to also find out a given sample falls under which category. So that is called classification. So there are many techniques available to do this. So we are going to discuss in this section. And clustering. Let's say we have a large set of samples, and if someone says you divide this into two groups, so how do you divide the set of samples into two groups? Or somebody may say you take these 20,000 samples and you divide into three groups. So that is what is called clustering. Um, Again, the neural networks. Again, we know how a child learns. Somebody teaches him, and slowly he can create models in his brain, and using that he can also interpolate or even though the sample is not exactly matching with his training, but still he can predict. Let's say you are training a child with a lot of pictures of dogs, and at some point he sees some dog on the street, and that picture is does not exactly match with the pictures he was trained, but still he can say it's a dog. Okay, so how a child learns, can we create a model for that and use that to learn any kind of data we have. So in the neural network section, we'll create models that mimic the learning of a human mind. Okay, these days, a lot of social networking sites were there. Every day, a lot of data is generated. Even sensors were also generating a lot of data. So once this data is growing too big, every day a lot of data is generated. So how to handle such a big data? The data is growing every day, and also the structure of the data is also not similar. Your Facebook is generating one format, your Twitter is generating one format, and many sensors are generating data in different formats. So in such case, how to process the huge data, and somehow can we analyze the recent trends that were based on the postings made in the Facebook or on Twitter or any sensor collected keeps on collecting a lot of data. So can we do analytics on top of it? So this area is addressed by big data and Hadoop section. So roughly this is the outline of our course. So we start with by learning two languages. One is to deal with the database. Other one is to deal with analytics using the library of Python. So we learn the basics of Python in the beginning. Then as we go to the individual topics, then we'll again come back to the Python and see what libraries are available to do those things. So we will be seeing two aspects here. One is the mathematical models and the theory behind those concepts. and the other one is the practical side of it. In that case, we again come back to Python for those individual aspects, and we'll demo how Python can be used in that context. Okay. And the evaluation part is 20 marks are for assignments and also for your internal assessment. This includes your attendance, assignments, and your participation in the class. And mid is for 30%, and final is for 50%. Right now, our organization is working on plans to how to conduct this mid remotely. If things are not improved, then you may need to write online, but somebody will be monitoring your examination session remotely. Otherwise, if the things improves, again, this mid will be conducted in our campus itself. And most likely by the final exam, you will be here in the campus, so we'll conduct here itself. So we'll see as things progress. Okay, let's look at the SQL. SQL is a language to talk to the database. Let's begin. You did not take any course on databases earlier. So I'll give a small introduction, what's a database, and then we'll look at the SQL, because SQL is a language to talk to the database. So we need to first understand what's a database. So in simple terms, a database is a collection of related data and also its metadata, and we organize in a structured format. And let's say in simple terms, let's say you want to capture the data related to your examination cell. So if you look at that, maybe you need to maintain data for every student. You also need to maintain data for every course. So those are your so you're maintaining data for two aspects. One is student, and also for each course. The metadata is data about the data. For example, the student has a student has, let's say, an ID number, name, some address, some percentage, etc. And again, the ID number follows a particular pattern. So the metadata describes uh, for each uh, for each of those entities, for each of those elements, what are the attributes. Attributes are the attributes we are capturing. For example, for student information, we are capturing a student ID number, and let's say the name of the student, and percentage, and other information is contact number, and so on. So now each one of those attributes, let's say the ID must follow this pattern. So ID must start with an year followed by some pattern, and so that those kind of rules are described in the metadata. Now again, between the two elements, let's say one is student, other one is a course. You may also want to enforce some rules. A student has to take at least one or more courses. So such kind of relations also are part of the metadata. And the database optimizes your information management, that is to access quickly or to modify and also retrieve. So all those aspects will be carried out optimally. So other term we keeps on hearing is DBMS, database management system. So the meaning of this is it's a software that helps you to create databases, access database, and make changes to your databases. Okay, other term we normally hear is database system. So database system is an integrated system. It includes all the hardware you're using, all the software you're using, and the people involved in day-to-day activities, and what are the policies or procedures you are following, and what kind of data you're capturing. This whole thing is coined as a database system, called as a database system. So it defines how to collect the data, how to store it, what is the backup policy, the management aspects of it, and so all these are put together called as database system. Okay, let's look at database management system here. Let's say You have many users here who these are the end users who want to interact with they want to access your data, but the data is managed within a database. So let's say the information we are managing is related to customers, products, and invoices. And there is a metadata that describes what are the attributes or what are the fields inside these customers and products, and what are the rules for each of those attributes, and each and any relationships between these um, elements. Okay, so those are captured in the metadata. So your database structure includes your data, how you are organizing the data, plus the metadata that describes your data. And we said that the DBMS is a software that can talk to your database, and people can write applications using that can talk to the DBMS, and which in turn can make changes to your database, or which can access the data in the database and return the data back to your application. And applications are typically used by your end users. So in simple terms, your data is inside your database. The metadata is also inside your database, which describes your data. And software is running that will access your data, that can also manage your data. So that is your DBMS. And applications were written which can talk to which can use the software to manage your data. And those applications can be executed by end users. So this is the overall picture. Okay, if you want to look at the overall database system environment, um, in your environment, maybe there a lot of hardware may be there, some hardware to store your database data, some hardware to run your softwares. Okay, many softwares for their operating system, data DBMS, and the applications you are writing. So these are all your software components. And the data is residing in the hardware. Let's say you have some kind of a disk space to store your data. And if you look at who are operating here, is one person is called system administrator. His role is to manage the hardware. So manage the hardware and also look at the network connectivity between your client machines and your database. Okay, so he's the user who can manage your hardware, who can create system level users and so on. And there is another person called database administrator. So he is the one who administers or manages the database. He is the one that sets the policies on the database. So who can do what on the database. So this is the person who can create users of your database, and he can also say which user can do what. So and he can also take the backups frequently. So this is the role of a database administrator. And other than the administrator, there is also a person called database designer. So the database designer's role is to create the structures or the models needed for a specific application. So from the database side, given a problem, what entities to be stored in the database, how they are related. So all that is done by the database designer. So designer normally works for a specific application. He creates whatever is needed, whatever information need to be captured. So so he creates a model for capturing the data related to that application. Okay, another set of people are programmers. The programmers write programs. Those programs will talk to the DBMS, and then using the DBMS, they can access the data existing, or they can also make changes to the data. So these applications were written by um, users called programmers. And another set of users are called analysts. They are not really programmers, but they are more their knowledge is more towards the domain. Let's say we are modeling a HR system, then they understand the policies of a HR. Or if you are modeling an insurance company, the analysts are more aware of the domain that we want to automate. So, like an insurance or a banking system or insurance company. So the analysts are more on the functional aspects of the domain. Programmers and work with analysts, and then they create programs. So analysts are going to tell from the system functionality point of view what is expected, and programmers interact with the analysts, understand the requirements, and they implement. They write the programs, and those programs will be used by the end users. Okay. So to summarize, um, we have many people in the environment. Some people are simply managing the hardware and network. Some people are administrators for the database. They are the ones that create new users. They will set the policies and procedures that defines who can do what. So which data can be accessed by which user, who can modify. So such policies, database administrator um, is the one that set those policies. And there is a database designer who models data for a specific application. And again, there are analysts that are experts of a domain, and they tell what is expected at the end by the customers. So programmers are the ones that are going to implement um, the models recommended by analysts, and they write the code. And end users are the ones that are going to simply run the programs. So this is the overview of the database system environment. So, like if you are building a car, the first thing they do is they create a model for it before they manufacture a car. The first thing they do is they model it, and then only they once they're satisfied with the model, then only they put in the mass production. So similar to that here, the model that captures your data, a database model is created, and this model helps you to it's like this is a document that helps for the designers of the database and the programmers of your applications. They need to have a common understanding. So these models will help to create an interaction between the designers and the programmers. Sometimes the end users also need to look at the data model. By that, they know how to use the system. So within the data model, what we have is the basic elements are called entities, attributes, relationships, and constraints. Let me explain with a simple example that I mentioned earlier. Let's say we are focusing on the examination aspects. We want to automate the examination activities. Let's say again, we want to keep the details of all the students. We also need to keep the details of every course. So the entities in this case is student is one entity, and the course is another entity. So anything for which we are managing, we are collecting the data and also storing and managing, that is called an entity. So an entity can have many attributes. So again, let's say we say student is a entity. So within the student, what kind of attributes are the features we are maintaining for the student? For the student, ID is one attribute we want to capture, and name is the name of the student, and age of the student or date of birth, and any other information. So these are the attributes of the student. So an entity can have one or more attributes. Again, the relationships. So let's say between the student and the course, we can put a rule saying that every student must register for at least one course, one or more courses. So those are the relationships between two entities. One entity is student, other entity is your course, and we are saying a student must register at least one course. And also constraints are the restrictions we can place on the data. For example, we say ID number must follow only this pattern, or number of credits somebody can register should not be more than 28. So we can put constraints. These are the rules that will be enforced when we try to modify the data. So anytime we try to insert the data that violates these constraints, database rejects those changes, and it did not make those changes. Okay, so this is the overall picture. So in other words, what we are saying, to develop any database project, they are going to create a database model. The model is the one that describes what are the entities. When entities are the things for which we are collecting the data and also managing the data. For every entity, we are going to also tell what are the possible attributes. And for every attribute, we are going to also tell what is the data type. So is it an integer, is it a real number, or is it a string? Um, and relationships are going to tell between entities how the entities are related with how the entities are related. Sometimes there can be one-to-many, one-to-one relationships. So we'll see these details in a minute. Constraints are the rules we are imposing so that the data remains valid. Okay, so